scunt's a criminal.
What are you going to do? Just walk in and arrest the whole village?
Just say cool off.
No, I didn't say anything, actually.
Shame is all for the greater good.
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 Shut it!
Is this what you really, really want? Yar, you've got a mustache. I know. This is something I have to do myself. Here come the Fuzz.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Podmax podcast. I'm MJ.
And I'm Joe. This issue, we're going to be talking about Edgar Wright's second film in the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, Hot Fuzz. Let me do a Hot Fuzz again because my voice cracked. Hot Fuzz.
All right, sounds good to me.
What's the movie about? Give us a little summary because I guess some people want to have this included as well.
Some people are requesting a refresher before we dive right into the movie. So we have Super Cop Nick Angel, played by Simon Pegg, who is being relocated to the countryside, the West Country village of Sanford, because he is too good. He makes his partners look terrible. In being relocated, he is partnered up with Danny Butterman, played by Nick Frost, who is kind of an oafish character. Once in Sanford, he realizes that this quaint town is too perfect. So perfect that he's having trouble adjusting to the new calm of the sleepy town. It isn't until the decapitation of 2 local actors that Nicholas Angel and Danny Butterman are on the case.
One accident after another happens, and it just keeps bringing rise to Nick Angel thinking that it's impossible for this many accidents to happen without something else going on. So he starts to investigate into this more and more, as is everyone else on the force there. Kind of makes fun of him for it, and poke at him, saying that there isn't any murder or anything like that going on, and it's all in his head. We eventually come to find out that the whole town is in on it, and there really isn't any accidents going on, but these are planned murders, but not for the reasons that you would think that are happening, which we'll go into much later. Okay, so let's I guess once again jump into this. For me, I remember seeing the trailers maybe 2 weeks before it came out, and I just remember thinking I don't really want to see this movie because I'm so used to people the film companies and studios trying to capitalize on this past successes and just doing a shit job. So I was like, they're just, bringing back Edgar Wright and Nick Frost again because they had some success before. And I had no real interest in seeing this. And I think, I was living with a friend at that time. I know we're not trying to use, friends' names when we're talking about them, so I'll just use his initials. It was B.A. I was saying...
Damn it.
Anyway, he convinced me to watch it at the movie theaters, and I'm glad that we ended up watching it there. Just made it that much better.
This one, I don't think I saw it in the theaters. Actually, I remember seeing the previews for it, and I remember thinking, this looks pretty good. Especially the joke about, you have a mustache, and I know. So, I mean, I thought it looked really, really funny. And then, for whatever reason, I didn't end up seeing it in theaters, but I ended up renting it when it came out on DVD. And I think I was watching it with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I didn't like it.
Oh, you didn't like it off the bat?
No.
No, I remember you told me.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I remember you telling me you didn't like it, and I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just you have to kind of be in the mood to watch a movie, and I think I wasn't really as blown away with it as other people were. But upon reviewing it, that's a different story.
And what story is that?
Regale us, please. No, I mean, it's one of those times where the first time through you watch a movie and you're like, I didn't really care for it. It was okay. Or you even might have disliked it. And then the second time viewing it, you're like, what was I thinking? This movie is freaking awesome. I mean, granted, it was a good, I don't even know when this movie came out. It was a good,
2007, April 20th, 2007.
So yeah, this movie came out in 2007. It's probably a good 4 or 5 years later that I saw. No, it wasn't 5. I want to say like 3 or 4 years later that I saw it, and I was like, I loved it the second time I saw it, and I was able to appreciate it a lot more than I did when the first time I saw it.
And personally, I no longer like to see midnight movies because I guess as I'm getting older, my attention is, I'm just more like, I just want to sleep. I don't really care. For instance, first time I saw Dark Knight Rises was a midnight showing. I walked away and was just like, really? I expected so much more. But yet nowadays I could watch it over and over.
Yeah, I actually have the same experience with the second and third Nolan Batman movies. I get the titles mixed up. Right, Dark Knight Rises, and which one's the other one?
Dark Knight, then Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, okay. So, because I always want to say Dark Knight Returns, but that's the graphic novel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had the same experience. I saw both of those at midnight showings. Everyone had been hyping it up so much that when I finally saw it, I was just very like, yeah, it was all right. And then rewatching it later, on a regular showing where it was in the middle of the day, it was a lot better. And I think it's the same thing. It's just one of those things you're tired, it's late, it's, you work, go to school, whatever. It's going to affect the way you feel when you watch a movie.
Yeah, so I guess lesson to be learned, go watch a movie when you're in a better mood. Yeah. Also, the company you have with you helps out a lot, because, just going with somebody that really doesn't like movies, it sucks to go with them and then afterwards wanting to talk about it, and they're just like, yeah, it was good. And you're just like, oh yeah, like this scene, and they're all, yeah, I don't remember that. You're like, well, fuck.
Yeah, it's like, how do you not remember that? You were just staring at a giant screen for 2.5 hours or however long. Yeah, oh man, that feeling is just so frustrating when it's, when you want to talk about a movie, whether it be good or bad, and the other person, they don't care enough to make any sort of conversation about the movie. It's just meh.
Nah.
Or yeah, it was okay. And that's their only input. And you're like, but why? Like, let's talk about it. Let's discuss. Let's break it down a little bit. Let's I like that back and I mean, granted, we're doing this podcast. That's why. But when you find, you go to movies with that person who does that, and you're like, I am not going to go to the movies anymore with you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who you are. You're listening to it right now.
I don't know why they would be listening to a podcast about movies. If they didn't care too much.
Yeah, they have
about movies.
They don't have interests. Yeah. Going back to just trailers in general. I think like in 2007, it was still kind of like a norm for trailers to not come out until like maybe a month or two before the movie came out. Like, have you noticed how you'll see a trailer a year and a half or just something like in advance before the movie comes out?
Oh, dude, it's like 2 years now.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, and you'll just know so much about a movie now before it even shows. And I don't like that.
I can't stand it. I actually really, really try and stay away from movie trailers or just in general stuff about movies. I mean, not about movies, but just stuff about newer movies. Cause I work with guys who are also, they know their things about movies. They really enjoy movies. Granted, they like a lot of more modern films, which is fine. But,
yeah,
they are always like, oh, did you see the new, Jurassic Park trailer? It was this, this, and this. And I'm like, okay, cool. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to see the trailer. I would rather go to the movie and be like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'd rather be surprised.
Almost every movie now shows you like the end or the funniest parts only or whatever to pull you in. Like, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I hated how they showed the rhino in the trailers and all that, and it ended up being the very last clip of the movie. And
right.
Had they not even shown that at all, maybe I would have been like more like, oh, cool, the rhino's in this, like more blown away. But no, like it was ruined.
No, the worst one I can think of in like most recent times is when we went to go see Quarantine. The very last scene of the movie is in the trailer.
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
It shows the dead last scene, and it's like, it's dead quiet, and it's about to happen. and there's a guy behind me talking to his girlfriend, like, hey, check this out. She's going to get dragged away. She's going to get pulled away. Watch. I saw it in the trailer. Watch.
Oh, God
watch.
damn.
And then it happens. And I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, we all saw I mean, you know, most of us saw the trailer. You don't need to telegraph it to your girlfriend.
That's also the trailer's fault as well as just shitty people that don't know how to watch a movie.
Well, yeah, it's a combination, but that's the most recent, like, that I can think of where they literally put the very last scene of the movie in the trailer.
Yeah, anyone that's listening to this, feel free to email us about movies that piss you off that do this or have done this, and you're just like, why? Anyway, we're on a huge tangent.
Yeah. Dude, like always.
So anyway, going back to Hot Fuzz, I'm trying to not watch the director's commentaries going to this because I want to try to figure out as much as I can. I don't really care if you do or don't.
I'll confirm, or at least as far as the director commentary, if there's anything that you point out that they also point out. I'll say it.
Sweet. But the only thing that I did see was Edgar Wright had done a movie when he was 18, dealt with police and all that, you know, and some of the stuff is, he redid in Hot Fuzz, like some scenes. But anyway, his goal for Hot Fuzz, he said, was to make pretty much an American cop movie, but in England or London.
Right.
So which brings me to this. What's your favorite American buddy team-up cop movie?
Oh, man, that's tough.
Besides Hot Fuzz, in case of Hot Fuzz
No,
was.
Hot Fuzz isn't my favorite because there's just so many good ones. I think it depends because there's so many different like genres. There's the comedy ones, and then there's like weird ones like sci-fi style. So I'll name off a few. So like if you want something more serious, I'd say To Live and Die in L.A. William Dafoe is in it, and it's a William Friedkin movie. But that one's a really good one. It's kind of like the one that started the whole cliche of you know, like the partner in their last day, and they have to get kicked off the force, and then once they get kicked off the force, they're able to solve the crime, that kind of thing. For like a more sci-fi, I would say Alienation with James Caan.
Oh my god, I haven't seen that in so long.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it a little while ago. And I love James Caan. He's just so good. And in that one, his character is amazing because he's just like this weird bigot, and I love it. So I would say Alienation. I would also suggest, I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, interesting.
And that one's also a really cool sci-fi buddy cop film. And then I guess if you have to get into other buddy cop films, The Lethal Weapon is just, well, I think it's a classic. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Lethal Weapon.
That one hits all the basic themes that you'll see in any buddy cop film nowadays. The retiring cop and all that last day.
Getting kicked off the force.
Yeah. The loose cannon.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, like, that's so great. And then one of my other favorites, this is far more on the comedy, is Cuffs.
Oh, man.
With Christian Slater.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one in a long time.
Oh, yeah, like, I have to watch that one every, 3 or 4 years. That one's a good one to go back to. It holds up. That's what I like. It holds up really well. A lot of the good buddy cop movies, are referenced in Hot Fuzz. So, like, Point Break is an awesome one. Obviously, Bad Boys.
Oh, yeah, Bad Boys.
So then, what I like about Hot Fuzz is not only does it do the buddy cop movie aspect really well, it does, like, the horror mystery aspect as well. And
yeah, it's a bit of a thriller.
Yeah, you have elements of Scream in there, arguably. You have a lot of Western influence, Western flicks, which is your area of specialty. And even movies like Wicker Man, it's crazy how much they're able to use. Yeah, so this is, once again, it shows Edgar Wright's ability to, he flat out has said it before, like, he takes movies that he really likes and sees if he could redo the scenes with his own style, and just kind of builds it into a movie. But that's a talent in its own. Yeah, we kind of covered a lot and covered not that much at the same time.
We've talked a lot and said very little.
Oh man! So, what did you like about Hot Fuzz? Very broad question.
Yeah. and it's going to end up going on some weird tangent about some movie, but it has nothing to do with Hot Fuzz. Yeah, I mean, for me, I really like a lot of the characters, because this movie is filled with a lot more characters. You know, Shaun of the Dead, is a zombie story, so you're working with, you know, maybe a cast of 5, 6 characters.
Six characters that die out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of typical of a zombie film. You have a very small cast, and eventually they get knocked off one by one, and then you end up left with, you know, 2, 3 maybe characters that are your focus. In this one, on the other hand, you end up with a whole slew of characters. You have like an entire town, essentially, of people who are, you know, working with the the comedy thriller, cop aspects of the film, and I to me is one of the things that really shined in Hot Fuzz.
What I really liked is the thing that I was worried about, the use of the same same 2 actors and all that, and trying to bank off their success again. But which, you know, when you watch this movie, you know that wasn't the idea going in. It was just more like, no, let's just make another good movie. But yeah, your actors are completely different than they were in Shaun of the Dead. The editing is even different.
Oh,
big time.
Way different.
Yeah, they still do the quick pace and all that.
It's like twice as frenetic, like crazy editing.
For me, this one was more visual than Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead relied more on the dialogue than it did on the visual gags. In this one, though, I mean, they just like 10 times more of the visuals. Everything that you see is helping tell the story even more. And at the same time, it's not like they slacked off on like the character and the writing of each person. That's like just as important, or if not more important. You could obviously tell that there was huge improvement over Shaun of the Dead, but at the same time, it doesn't take away anything from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, it comes off being its own. Like you said, they didn't come into it trying to capitalize off of the success of Shaun of the Dead with the 2 same characters. Even the 2 main characters, who are the exact same actors in Shaun of the Dead, are playing 2 totally different characters from the first one. Like we had said before in Shaun of the Dead, talking about the reluctant hero. You know, in this new one, what's his name? Nicholas Angel.
Nicholas Angel.
Yeah, he's not that guy. He's not the reluctant hero. He is the hero.
He's the badass super cop from the get-go.
Yeah, so it's a totally different character from the first one.
And then what I really like that Nick Frost, I mean, he has way more dialogue in this one. And I like that he uses a different accent and all that. Even Simon Pegg, he doesn't use a different accent, but he plays the tough guy voice a lot more.
I'm trying to think. It's pretty much like the last third of the movie is when he goes into that tough guy voice.
Oh yeah, for sure. He definitely plays on it a lot more. Like he does, like, I'm gonna do this on my own.
No. This is something I have to do myself.
And then, oh god, I just love what I love about Nick Frost's character. Besides the fact that he's, as an actor, he's playing them differently and like actually diving into like what it's like to be a cop in a small town. He's constantly improving as an officer.
Even the way that he progresses as an officer, it's in his own kind of, childish manner, because he is kind of a child. He's essentially a giant child in Hot Fuzz, and the way that he's progressing, he's becoming a better cop, is by mimicking what Nick Angel is doing, and it's all through like kind of this imitation. It just shows how well thought out the characters are.
And it's not just mimicking. It's not like that scene in Django Unchained where Leonardo DiCaprio says a line and then Samuel Jackson says it right after. Like it's used later on in the movie. I'll show an example right here. Here's a clip.
We just sat through 3 hours of so-called acting, Constable. Their kiss was the only convincing moment in it.
Nick Frost's character says the exact same line, but to prove Angel's point.
Because we sat through 3 hours of so-called acting last night, and the kiss was the only convincing moment in it.
Yeah, it's not like a call and response type of mimic. It's just more so that he's learning, and the way he's learning is by doing.
Yeah, so eventually what you get is he gets to become a super cop himself, which is kind of one of his wishes earlier in the film.
Oh yeah, when he's looking at the Jackie Chan Super Cop DVD.
Yeah, and he just like even the conversations they have while they're doing radar checks on the cars, he's saying like, "Oh, I wish I could do what you do," and then Simon Pegg says like, "You do what I do. We're both cops." He's like, "No, I want to do all the fun. I want to do all the fun chase stuff and all that." Obviously, there's always a lot of foreshadowing in these movies.
Yeah, this one not so much. Or I mean, I didn't catch as much. I know there is foreshadowing.
Oh, there's quite a bit.
This one, it had foreshadowing, but I don't think it had it as much as Shaun of the Dead did.
I think they covered up a little bit better. Because in the very opening scene, when he talks to Bill Nye's character about having to move to Sanford, he makes a line like,
"Now, I know what you're going to say, but the fact is, you've been making us all look bad."
I'm sorry, sir?
Of course, we all appreciate your efforts, but you've been rather letting the side down.
It's all about being a team player, Nicholas. You can't be the Sheriff of London.
If we let you carry on running around town, you'll continue to be exceptional, and we can't have that. You'll put us all out of a job.
With respect, sir, you can't just make people disappear.
Yes, I can. I'm the chief inspector.
it literally foreshadows the whole movie from that point forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that, but I just felt like there wasn't as much tiebacks. Like, you know, how there would be something said in the beginning and it would tie into the very end, or like little plays on the theme, just in the way that people are talking to each other. I mean, I know, for instance, the NWA, the members of the NWA, they all have lines where they kind of foreshadow the way that they're going to die.
Yeah, like you said, other characters just kind of will say something like, before Tim Messenger gets impaled by the church spike, they say, "Tim, your time is up."
Yeah.
Yeah, something really close. Like, I mean, Skinner's the obvious villain. He definitely constantly has lines where he either says something when he shouldn't know, and even policeman Angel says something. It says like, "Oh, how do you know that?" And he's just like, "Oh, it's a small town. We all talk."
Crap, I'm trying to think, because there's a saying where they say something about popping off.
Oh, yeah. Before she gets the scissors stabbed into her throat. She said, "I'm about to pop off," when he asked if she's leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you know what, though? It's in Hot Fuzz, they don't do a lot of from the very beginning to the very end, like reappearing stuff. They do a lot quick turnaround. So she says that, and then moments later she gets, popped off. One of the ones I caught today, Nick Frost's character, we keep skipping between their character name and the actor's name. So I'll just stick to Nick Frost, who's Danny. Danny's character is sitting in the car and they're both eating Cornetto ice cream. And he says something that triggers off Officer Angel to go into like a thought process. And he looks at him and he says, like, "What's the matter? Do you have a brain freeze?" And he says, "No, drive." And then Danny quickly eats his ice cream and he just gives like a wincing pain. He's like, "Oh, brain freeze." Like, and it was just like so quick that if you don't really like pay attention, like you won't really think about it.
One thing that I really like that Edgar Wright did is he wants to play. He's playing on these tropes that are going on, and one of the things that when listening to the commentary, he specifically said that that he picked up a book. I think it was Roger Ebert wrote it, about tropes, and it's about all the tropes in movies that you'll see. And so him and Simon Pegg literally went through the entire book finding these tropes, and they put them in the movie on purpose. So how you were saying that Skinner is the obvious bad guy, that's the point.
Yeah.
He wants it to be an obvious bad guy, and so much so that the scene where he's first introduced and they're jogging next to each other, he really wanted to put a neon sign in the background pointing at him that said "bad guy," but he couldn't figure out how to do it.
Probably without taking away too much of the seriousness.
Yeah, but he really wanted to put it in there just so that way it was that telegraphed that he is the bad guy. And so speaking of the tropes that he throws in there, one of the ones that he did do is casting famous people to play all these small parts. So normally, it's kind of like how in Law and Order, You know, you see, it's
Oh, yeah.
you have a famous actor coming in and playing a small part. You're like, oh, obviously they're going to be the bad guy. And it's the same. It's the same
Yeah.
idea here. It's just that he wanted it to be. He wanted you to go, okay, so maybe it's that guy's the bad guy, or maybe that guy's the bad guy. So you're like, well, if everyone's famous, then who could it be? There's a reason why these famous people are playing these bit characters, and it kind of plays on that. And then the twist is, which is also taken from an Agatha Christie novel, Murder on the Orient Express. The twist is that everyone's the bad guy.
Going back to the characters of Danny and Angel, one of the things that I really liked that they played on doing the whole buddy cop theme was the homosexual, the homoerotic undertones. You pretty much, as the movie progresses, they do it as if they're dating. You have the scene where they go get beers and all that, and they're both going home after they drop off that one dude before his house explodes. And you could tell that they don't want to have the night end. They're standing in front of Danny's house, and he's like, oh, you want to come in and get some coffee? He's just like, oh, yeah. Which, going in for coffee usually means sex in any other movie.
Well, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because Edgar Wright did want to play up on the homoeroticism of the two main male characters, because in a lot of the action movies, you'll have those moments where it's, this sweeping dramatic music, and these two guys are making this connection, and he kind of wanted to play on that. Originally, Nick Angel was actually supposed to have a girlfriend, and he does kind of in the beginning, who is Kate Blanchett. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say she was played by Kate Blanchett. But she was supposed to have a major role in the movie, but what ended up happening is they couldn't, with time constraints and I think budget as well. What they ended up doing is giving her lines to Nick Frost's character.
Oh,
So because
awesome.
of that, it kind of
yeah.
because of that, it plays to that, him being kind of like the way he is, and that kind of homoerotic undertones that are going on within the movie that kind of add a little bit of humor to it.
Another thing that I like that they did with both the characters is how they, before they got to the whole homoerotic undertones, for the most part, Angel really doesn't like Danny. He kind of gets annoyed that he gets paired up with him. And it's not until Angel kind of answers this question of why he wanted to be a cop, and it turns out that he was influenced from his uncle, who ended up being, a criminal. His uncle ends up being a criminal, and by either way, Angel still wants to be a cop. So then you have this connection because Danny becomes a cop because of his father. So they both became officers because of someone influencing them, and both those people end up being criminals in the end. So that's just kind of like a common bond that they have.
Yeah.
That's not fully realized until the end, but
it is. Yeah, if you're paying attention, it's something that you will kind of catch on to. One of the other things that Edgar Wright mentioned is also kind of an Agatha Christie film is he wanted to have these big stars playing these roles so that way people could also keep up with all the different characters. So rather than having to know the character's name, they can just go, oh, it's that actor. Maybe it was this actor, or maybe it was that actor. It's just so that way everyone has an easier time keeping up with all the different individuals in the movie.
While we're on characters, the Andes. Oh God, man. I love the Andes. The Andes are two of my favorites. So we have one of the Andes he was in Shaun of the Dead, as we're talking about before. He played Noel or Noel. I can't remember if I edited that in or out when we had a conversation, if it was Noel or Noel. Anyway, so he played Noel. He was the 17-year-old kid in Shaun of the Dead, and now he's much thinner, handsome guy, which I'm pretty sure I said last time.
And mustached now.
And mustache, so yeah, he's even better looking. Partnered up with another actor named, or not, the actor's not named Andy, the character's name is Andy, and they're called the Andes. And both of them, they actually do a lot of minor foreshadowing and also just like quick turnaround on jokes.
Oh man, there's so many jokes with them, it's crazy. Like even just visual, there's a lot of visual stuff with them, and it's great.
I mean, the mustache gag, that's, there's your obvious visuals, and then This is one of my favorite jokes was...
You do know there are more guns in the country than there are in the city.
Everybody and their mums is packing round there.
Like who?
Farmers?
Who else?
Farmers' mums.
And then later on, this foreshadows at the very end when Angel comes back after being stabbed by Danny, air quoting, stabbed.
Yeah. Ketchup.
He comes back and then he crashes into the farmer's car. And right before he knocks out the farmer says, "Mom!" And she comes up with a shotgun and shoots at him. So it's everyone and their mother have guns.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So that was just like one quick joke or quick turnaround joke.
There's a lot of visual stuff too. Like with the Andes, they're always dressed. Yeah, they're always dressed like these, kind of badass like inner city cops wearing leather jackets and, like
very stylish.
Yeah, they look like they're from the 70s. Like they're supposed to be from that Beastie Boys music video or something. But it's funny because you never actually see them doing anything though. And it's more so that they're playing cops. Like, like they don't have anything to do, so they just pretend to be badass detectives.
Yeah. Oh!
Yeah, and it's funny because if you even look at their scenes in their office, and if you look at like their scheduling calendar that's like written all big on the whiteboard, there's nothing in it.
But that goes for all the cops. They're always bored. That's like one of the other thing is that's why they're always at stores and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just funny because it seems more so that they're playing the role, or they're acting it up more than the other characters are.
Crap! What's the phone book joke with Aaron A. Anderson? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
So at some point he says like,
right. In the meantime, why don't you check out a few of Martin Blower's clients?
Martin Blower represents damn near most of the village. Do you want us to go through the whole phone book?
Yeah, we'll put a call into Aaron A. Aronson, shall we?
Please, don't be childish.
And then later on at the very end, when Angel saves a little kid.
You did good, kid.
Ta.
What's your name?
Aaron A. Aronson.
Sorry?
Do you watch Game of Thrones, right?
No. I have not started on it. I have it.
For anyone that watches Game of Thrones, the Hound is in Hot Fuzz. He plays Lurch.
Oh, like a yarp.
Yarp, yeah. So then we have Andy's. We have Doris. Doris is she's just a funny role.
Which one's Doris?
Doris is the female officer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she just pretty much sets up a lot of sexist jokes and goes with it.
Is there any policewoman?
She's not a policewoman.
She is. I've seen her, bro.
She's a police officer. Being a woman has nothing to do with it.
Oh, I don't know. It comes in handy every so often. I could have given you the tour. I've been around the station a few times.
Yeah, so last episode, you were telling me about Black Books, how a lot of those people showed up in Shaun of the Dead. And one of the guys, Sergeant Turner, do you remember him?
No.
He's the officer that Sean first meets in Sanford. And he has the twin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Bailey, he's the main guy, one of the main guys in Black Books. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that guy's hilarious, man. And it's funny because the only way you can, aside from having his hair all crazy, like the way that you can differentiate between the two twins is what they're reading. It's like slightly different. One book is, Lane Banks, which is the nice twin. And then the one that is kind of a dick is Lane M. Banks, like as far as like the authors.
Oh, okay.
And that's the difference between the two. Like if you're paying attention to the books.
Yeah, God, there's just so much stuff that you could focus on. You could watch this movie and just watch the background only. Yeah,
that's one of the things that he said. He says in the commentary where he's just like, you know what? In the age of DVDs and the rewatchability of movies, he says that that's one of his main goals is to make movies that you can rewatch and you're always finding something new because, you have the ability to do so.
You know what? Like some of my favorite movies to rewatch over and over are mostly by British directors.
Who else? What other movies?
Like any of Danny Boyle's stuff. Obviously, Nolan.
Nolan's good. He's got like good stuff that you can catch on rewatching.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite TV shows are like that. Arrested Development is one, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I've seen that one like 3 or 4 times over.
Yeah.
Like all seasons. And
one that I've seen a ton of times, and I still catch new stuff is Home Movies. That one is like, since it's movie based, like humor, I'm constantly catching things like either in the background or just like in the way that they're saying things. I'm just like always finding jokes.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, that was during like the time when Adult Swim was really good. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's still good. I just don't catch anymore. But like Frisky Dingo was the same way.
Oh yeah,
watch that over and over, and so many good jokes in the background or just quick references, and which Archer does a good job too. It's
the same people pretty much. Well, it's a combination of that's funny because it's a combination of Arrested Development, the guys who did Home Movies, and Frisky Dingo.
Nice. Cool. See how we just brought that back? We're using our own circles. You ready to go on a tangent? Which we're just cutting off of right now anyway.
Yeah, let's do it.
So one of the other tropes that I like they do is the no guns. When your hero character doesn't use guns.
Yeah.
And you know that they're a badass.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an implied ability, like that they have, he doesn't actually end up using a gun until he is at the fair when he wins that monkey for Nick Frost's character.
And I want to come back to the fair. That alone right there.
Yeah.
Has a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But
that one is, it's that moment. It's actually a reference, kind of. I mean, I know it's a trope, but it's a specific reference to Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood movie, where the entire movie you're told this guy's a badass. William Money is a straight up badass. You don't see him do anything up until the very end of the movie, where he goes and he, spoiler alert, kills everyone inside the bar, and he becomes he shows you like what the type of person that he can be. It's a reference to that, because the entire time, no guns, and then that's the first time you see him with a gun, and you're like, oh wow, he actually is really good with a gun.
And what's funny, while we're in this scene, I'll just jump into it, but I'm going to go back into the no gun trope. There's even a little bit of foreshadowing there. What's the doctor's name? Dr. Hatcher. He says, shoot all the folks and you win the big monkey, which is pretty much kill all the town folks and you win Danny.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then,
yeah, I mean,
I didn't count how many of the...
6.
Oh, it's 6? Okay.
But there's a lot more of the bad guys than 6.
Yeah. I thought maybe it was going to be exact number of people.
Yeah, maybe it's nothing, but that's how I saw it. Like, Danny's the big monkey, which they constantly make jokes about more and more.
Oh, yeah. Well, his joke is, or like his kind of go-to thing in this one is when he laughs and claps at the same time. Yeah, which is his monkey thing from Shaun of the Dead.
And since we're talking about Shaun of the Dead, did you see the connection here? He shoots Dr. Hatcher with the air rifle.
No, I didn't see that.
In Hot Fuzz, when Danny shoots Dr. Hatcher with the air rifle, after he shoots him in the leg, he says, "I've never shot anyone with a gun before." That's a reference to Shaun of the Dead, where in Shaun of the Dead, they're trying to figure out who should use the gun in the bar.
Okay, has anyone fired a gun before? Oh, yeah. Apart from Ed.
I'm a pacifist.
Apart from David and Ed.
Sorry, what was Ed's experience?
He shot his sister in the leg with an air rifle.
I think you should do it.
Oh, hey. Nice. I didn't catch that one.
I was just like, oh, that's awesome. Going back to what we're talking about the no guns. One of the other movies that I like that they did that in was The Rundown, which I don't think gets that much credit for being a good movie.
The Rundown? Which one's The Rundown?
The Rundown with The Rock and Sean William Scott before he disappeared, much like Cuba Gooding Jr.
Is that what it's... Oh, it is. I'm thinking Walking Tall. Never mind. Yeah. No, that one's classic. That one's like when The Rock kind of made it into like, hey, I'm here and I'm that action guy that, it's like that's when he came in to fill the void when Arnold Schwarzenegger like went into office.
Oh, it's such a horrible choice.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say another Shaun of the Dead reference, just since we're pointing him out, is when he goes, "Yeah, Roy."
Yeah, the "yeah, boy."
Yeah,
yeah Roy. Yeah, Roy's the bartender in Hot Fuzz.
That one's like pretty obvious, but I caught that one, yeah.
It's not so obvious because you could also think like, oh, it's just a reference to Bad Boys. I mean, it's both obviously, but it's also a nod to Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, let's just stick into this. Going back to Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, are we going to the Shaun of the Dead references? So
another reference, well, obviously is the gate, the fence jump.
Oh yeah.
But this time, I'll switch into actor's name. Simon Pegg is a badass at jumping fences. And he does a role reversal with Nick Frost's character, who does not have the ability to even hop over a fence.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
It's funny because they, in the commentary, Edgar Wright even says the reason why Nick Frost's character turns around after he smashes through that first fence is so that way the audience could see his face, so that way he earns the fact that, you know, it was really him doing that, like, pretty much pratfall.
Oh, man. It was played off so well. Let me see. Bloody handprints in the beginning of the movie.
Where was that?
So when Sean goes to talk to his ex, that he's going to be moving, at the crime scene, there's bloody handprints all over. That's probably just like a minor nod. Yeah.
You know what's really funny, though? When he's looking at the movies, one of the DVDs in the bin is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you freeze frame it, it's a red DVD that's like sitting on the top, and it's Shaun of the Dead, but it's like the UK cover, not the American one.
Maybe that's why I didn't notice. They did the same line, another role reversal in Shaun of the Dead, which I played in the Shaun of the Dead episode. He says, "Do you want anything from the shop?" And Nick Frost's character says, "Cornetto." In this one, it's reversed, and Nick Frost asks Simon Pegg if he wants anything from the shop, and he says, "Cornetto."
Speaking of the cornettos, Cornetto?
Cornetto. Do you want me to play the clip? All right, here's the clip.
You want anything from the shop?
Cornetto.
So speaking of the cornettos, they're actually different flavors in each movie, and there's a reason why. The first one of Shaun of the Dead is obvious. I mean, it's strawberry because of blood. And then in Hot Fuzz, they're the original flavors because the wrappers are blue, and the blue is supposed to match with the police uniforms.
And then by the time it gets to World's End, it's green. Was it mint?
Yeah, I think it's mint.
Yeah, to symbolize aliens. The other reference from Shaun of the Dead, and which they play on a lot here, is the use of one-liners.
How so?
Well, because, like in every cop movie, or there's always that one-liner right before you off the bad guy or whatever, just something clever, you say something.
Yeah.
So in Shaun of the Dead, which when they first get the gun and Sean's about to shoot it for the first time, he says his badass one-liner, but the gun doesn't go off because he didn't cock it. But he says, "Sorry, we're closed," and tries to fire the gun, but nothing happens. In this one, Danny's constantly asking Officer Angel if he's ever said anything cool before he's shot someone or done something cool. And I think we played in the very beginning of this episode. He says, like, "Did you say cool off?" He says, "No." He says, "Lame." So yeah, the use of one-liners is pretty funny.
One thing that they do that Edgar Wright does a lot in this movie that he didn't necessarily do in Shaun of the Dead. There are moments in Shaun of the Dead, but it's not as heavy. It's his use of the term is called diegetic sound, and it's essentially sound from things within the scene or things that are supposed to be in the scene. So they might not be necessarily, you might not be able to see them, but they're supposed to be in the scene. So, like, for instance, one of the really obvious ones is when they're in the Skinner's office, and he stands up, and there's a picture of him right behind him, and he smiles, and it makes that noise. It makes like an alarm, like a buzzer noise.
Oh, like the warning.
Yeah, it's like a noise, like, it's like a buzzard. They do that a lot. So there's a moment where he's talking, and they're at the bar, and this is also with Skinner. And Skinner, he glances at the camera for a second, and it was kind of a mistake, but instead of taking it out, he emphasized it with a cash register noise. So he's using these sounds to kind of emphasize little things. Like there's another scene where they're at the bar and they're all talking in a group, and not Sean, Nick Angel, Nick Angel's ears kind of perk up, and when they perk up, he makes there's another like noise in the background that kind of comes in and accents it. Same thing with like when the light glints off the kid's braces and it blinds him a little bit.
Oh yeah. When he first moves in and goes to the bar.
Yeah, he uses a lot of diegetic sound in this one, and I really liked it because it kind of emphasized like some of the silliness.
Yeah, pretty much kind of what we said in the last podcast. He does a lot of things that if it's not there, you wouldn't notice. It doesn't really matter, but it is there, and it just works out, and it just, like you said, puts sugar on the donut. Did you watch the outtakes of the movie?
No, I didn't.
The deleted scenes. I did watch the deleted scenes. I watched it for this one and Shaun of the Dead. We didn't go into it in Shaun of the Dead. But usually any movie, whenever I watch the deleted scenes, I'm always like, oh, they should have cut that scene in. It would have helped out a lot more of the story. Not so much for Edgar Wright's movies. It seems like they're able to take out the scenes that really don't need to be there. Especially in Shaun of the Dead, at least all those scenes that they show you just really didn't add anything at all in any level. In Hot Fuzz, there was maybe like 3 or 4 jokes that they should have kept, but at the same time, like as far as the editing goes, it probably would have slowed down the pace.
Were there any scenes with the Gabriel plot line in there?
The little kid?
Yeah,
it didn't look like it was working out.
Yeah, well, from what I understand is that, I mean, there is still a scene in there that kind of leaves it. The Gabriel plotline is at the beginning when he's looking at the fountain and he sees the little G in spray paint. And of course, those kids are all throughout the movie, the kids with the spray paint. But it's supposed to be like tying into the gang, and the leader of the gang, his name is Gabriel. And it's supposed to have like this subplot in the movie. But, I didn't really look into it much more than that.
Yeah, if they showed all the scenes in the deleted scenes, it really led up to nothing.
Oh, okay.
It didn't feel that great. The only things that I wish they kept in were just more jokes to reference what they said earlier. Like one of them was in the very beginning. Sean says, "Oh, my office." Sorry, not Sean. Angel says, "My office is in the streets." Before Martin Freeman wants to ship him out to Sanford. So when he gets to Sanford in the deleted scene, Officer Butterman, Danny's father, says he's like, "Oh, let me show you to your office, but there's a problem." And then before he could finish his sentence, Angel says, "Oh, my office is in the streets." And then Butterman says "Oh, so you've heard." And then you cut to all his office supplies are out in the street because there was a flood in his office room, which I think they could have easily have kept.
So in this movie, I mean, obviously there's a lot of influences from action movies, and the way you can tell is a lot of like the score. There's the obvious scenes like Point Break at the very end where Nick Frost's character shoots the gun in the air, stuff like that. Bad Boys with the helicopter and the Michael Bay shot, money shot. But there's also a lot of other stuff like anytime that he processes somebody, how it's like this crazy editing of like the frames are jumping and stuff like that.
It's like very grungy.
Yeah.
Very grimy. Not grungy's not a word. Very grimy.
Yeah. That's a reference to Tony Scott. That's all Tony Scott's style.
Yeah, because the film stock changes.
Movie, the way it's done is it's all done on a hand crank camera. So that way you can kind of control the speed at which the film is being shot. So that's why there's like jumps and stuff every now and again, where like suddenly there's like the character will be there and it'll jump cut and then they won't be there. It's not in editing; it's all done on a hand crank camera. But the more I watch the movie, the more I notice that it's more of a Tony Scott thing that he's pulling, like as far as like directing and stuff. It's more Tony Scott than it is the other movies. There's references to Training Day, like when they're sitting in the car. And he's pointing out the different people and, like, you know, that guy's wearing
why is he wearing a coat?
Yeah, that's a Training Day reference. He does moments where they reference Get Carter with, like, the music and stuff. They actually use Lethal Weapon, the music from Lethal Weapon, just the trailer, when they're showing, like, the guns, like, for the very first time. You know how they end up with that huge lot of guns? That's from the Lethal Weapon trailer.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reference to the Omen when, obviously when they're at the church, but the music is like this big sweeping thing, when the piece of the church falls on that guy and kills him. And then, Robert Rodriguez actually wrote some of the music for the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
Near the end of the movie, it's pretty much like, you know, the scene when he's all suiting up and he's got the two guns crisscrossed on his back. That's all Robert Rodriguez doing the music.
Good old Robert Rodriguez. The only thing I don't like about him, his style seems like he kind of gets full of himself, I guess, is the best way to say it. And kind of gets...
For me, he's made this weird jump to, like, using a lot of... I mean, digital, I'm okay with digital cameras and stuff, but he's using a lot of, like, digital effects and, like, digital blood and stuff like that, and that's where, for me, I really don't care for it. I like him. I like some of the stuff he's done, but, yeah, once it goes, like, too digital, that's where it kind of... Like, too much CGI or... I mean, CGI is... I don't really care for it, but I'm not going to say that it's like the death of effects, you know, because you can use...
It's just a new art.
Yeah, you can use CGI in order to enhance an effect, a practical effect, and make it look more real. But I think the point where you just use CGI because why not? You know, it doesn't make sense to me. But that's a whole different story.
Yeah, I mean, plus we're finally at the point in time where CGI looks pretty damn good.
Well, I mean, even in this movie, Hot Fuzz, they use quite a bit of digital effects. Some of it you can tell, and a lot of it you can't. Like, for instance, the scene that you were talking about with the mother. You know, everyone and their mother has guns.
Yeah.
And she takes a shot at him, and there's a sign behind him, and it blows apart that sign. That was digital.
Really? That seems like just a simple practical effect.
Yeah. The helicopter, when it flies over them, that's digital. I mean, like, obvious scenes where, like, there's blood, like when the dude's head gets smashed in, that's a mixture of digital and practical, and that looks really good.
Oh, it looks really good. The only timeout for when Messenger gets smashed is when his body's already on the floor and some extra blood splats on his back. You could tell that's digital.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of moments where they use digital. Like, there's scenes where they couldn't afford to, you know, be shooting out glass and stuff like that, so they did it digitally. And there's... You know, it works like 98% of the time because they're using it sparingly, you know.
So I'm going to switch around when you say sparingly and sparingly. So it sounds like you corrected yourself to something wrong. No, I'm just kidding. So I guess that's the overall plot of the movie. It's very interesting because you pretty much have, obviously you have different types of movies put into this, the buddy cop, the murder mystery, and all that. And then at the very end, it's just a flat-out action movie.
It's just a series. The ending is just a series of hostage situations.
Oh,
and it's funny because they even make a joke about it. Because at one point, like near the end, when it's finally the dad and is it the dad?
Yeah, the dad and the son.
Yeah, it's the dad and the son, and he's like, "Oh, come on, like, you know, like, really? How many more hostage?" Because I think it does it 4 or 5 times.
And then the other thing that I really like that they did was they give you a backstory of like the motive for all the bad guys and why they're doing what they're doing.
Oh, and it's all this like the most trivial stuff ever.
Yeah. But, or like what Angel thinks it is you're like, oh yeah, that's why, because they're trying to capitalize and they didn't want anyone messing up their plans. And then when you find out what it is, they're like, no, it's far more simpler than that. I didn't like the way she laughed.
Yeah, it's like trivial bullshit. It's funny because he gets everyone on his side too. Angel like goes on this huge, this big thing explaining to everyone on the force, like, his theory.
We're actually supposed to call it the service now. Official vocab guidelines state that the force is too aggressive.
So yeah, that's your murder mystery. There turns out there really wasn't a mystery. Is there anything that you didn't like or things that they do in other movies that annoy you and they use it here?
I have to think that one through.
Or I guess one thing that I absolutely hate is when it's in the same movie and then they play back a scene that was in the movie. And like, I know you're trying to go into like the person's brain and what they're thinking and remembering, but I just hate that.
Oh, like flashback.
I hate flashback. Yeah, I just absolutely hate flashback and seeing the same thing that was already shown. And the first time that they do it in a way that like, okay, he's explaining news story. It's when he's explaining his theory.
Are you talking about when they're doing it all like backwards? Where when they're doing the flashback, but they're showing the flashbacks backwards and it's showing Skinner.
That was I'm completely fine with that. That was cool.
Okay.
'Cause it was,
I like that. I actually liked that it was like done this weird backwards way, but with him and,
Yeah, because he's not only that, but he's explaining his theory of how everything's put together. And
it's wrong.
Yeah, so. Which ends up being completely wrong. But at the same time, yeah, sure, they're showing the flashback and all that. But when he once again confronts voice crack. But once again, later on, when he once again confronts the whole group, he starts having all the mental flashbacks again. And I'm just kind of like, we already heard this. Like, that's just one thing that always bugs me. Is it really for the greater good? Is that really, Edgar?
For the greater good.
For the greater good.
The greater good. Shut it!
Oh, wait, real quick. In that scene, I can't, whenever I watch it again, whenever they say, crusty jugglers.
Crusty jugglers.
The monotone voice.
Oh, the one thing that did kind of bother me a little bit, I mean, it's not really like, I absolutely hate this, but it's just the multiple endings thing. And that one kind of bothers me a little bit. Just
yeah, it should have ended right when he's about to process them. And it should have been like credits.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand the intention. And I understand that it was done on purpose because they wanted to do the whole Die Hard thing at the end where the guy that you thought was dead comes back and, that kind of thing. And I know that they wanted to do that. So I get the point. But for me, I just get like these horrible flashbacks of Lord of the Rings, the Three Kings movie or whatever.
But that movie would never end.
Yeah, I just get like these horrible flashbacks of just like, oh God, why? It's not that I hated it, but I just felt like it made the movie feel longer than it actually was.
I mean, it only added like 3 to 5 minutes more from that point.
I know, but I was already committed to the ending. I was already like, oh, okay, cool. This is oh, wait, we got like a bit more. Okay, cool. By that point, I was already geared up for the movie to end. It would already reach that point for me where I was like, all right, cool. And it felt like it just overstepped just a little bit. But I'm not saying that that's anything to knock the movie. It's still what they had still kind of added to it because it technically did 3 endings.
Oh yeah, they did 3.
Yeah, you had the ending, the first one where they're the miniature town. You had the one in the office where the guy comes out, blows it up, and then you had the third one, which is you think Nick Frost is dead, and then it turns out he's not.
Yeah. Oh, with that, I was just like, not Nick Frost again.
Which that is also a reference to something else. I can't remember.
The character that always dies, or?
No, the character that you think is dead at the end of the movie and ends up coming out okay at the end.
Isn't that a Lethal Weapon? One of the Lethal Weapons?
Is it? I can't remember.
I can't remember anymore
which one it is, but it is a reference to something.
Yeah, but like when Danny jumps in front of to take the bullet, I was just like, oh, come on, really? Why do you have to kill him again? So I mean, at least it had that little piece to it, and the whole place blows up, which it really didn't have to because all the characters survive, all the cops, everyone in that building survived somehow. Which is actually
I was thinking that too. I was like, how the fuck?
Well, watch the extra specials, and it's like how they did in Shaun of the Dead. They fill in the plot holes, and he says, "Yeah, it turns out that I have superior skills in avoiding explosions, and a filing cabinet fell on top of me and deflected most of the blast. And as for everyone else, they bought old furniture that was made for nuclear explosions, so that's why they survived."
But I mean, if you're going on that stupid logic, then why is the dog not covered in soot?
Animal rights activist. You don't want to deal with that. That's more of what you can and can't do with animals in film. But everyone there survives. Oh, and then one of the other outtakes, do you remember the officer that they keep saying he's like? The guy with the bushy beard?
Guy with the bushy beard.
They're like, oh, there was another cop from London that was just like you, except for he had a big bushy beard.
No, I don't remember that.
Well, they keep saying that we keep making that reference that something about the big town cops have a hard time adapting to the small city because there's not the same amount of action. And anyway, so they mention him a few times, and when he falls into the pit with all the dead bodies, one of the skeletons he walks by is a skeleton with a big bushy beard, which was the other cop that, went through probably exactly the same thing that he did. So technically, it's his movie, but if he died. Which is another thing they did in Shaun of the Dead. The other group is that they run into later, halfway through the movie, is kind of the what happened if
they were actually successful and competent.
Yeah, if they were actually competent. But anyway, coming back to this movie, one of the outtakes is him walking into the office, and he sees a picture of the other officer with a big bushy beard, and it's just a picture of Simon Pegg with a big bushy beard. So I think that's another outtake they probably could have kept just because it was quick. Oh, and did you notice Steve Merchant is in this?
Yeah, just for a second.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is they were, because that's right before they're looking for the goose, the
swan.
Swan.
Well, that itself is a joke, that phone call, besides the piss taker aspect of it. Because I'm about to say Sean, but Angel is staying at the Swan Hotel, and they gave him the room in the castle room. And when Steve Merchant calls, he says, "There's a swan missing from the castle." So that's like another little quick turnaround joke.
Yeah, there was a joke that they wanted to do in there, but they didn't end up getting to put it. Edgar Wright didn't end up, because he thought of it after the shot or something along those lines. And Nick Frost was obligated to have a scruffy beard because he was shooting a different movie, so he couldn't shave it, so they couldn't add it in. But you know how he starts to kind of honk to try and get the swan's attention?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he wanted to do kind of a montage of Nick Frost honking, and then eventually having Simon Pegg's character giving in and honking as well, and then kind of have them go do a call and response to each other, a honk, 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 between the two of them.
Oh,
I was damn, awesome. That would have been hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of other jokes, there's a joke that they used in this one that's originally, I'm assuming it's originally in the World's End, because it's the part where he's chasing after the guy, and he turns the corner and he's like, "Mothers," and then it cuts to actually just a whole group of mothers. That joke in the commentary, he's like, "Oh, this joke, originally I had written it for a movie that was going to be about a pub crawl, but that movie didn't, we never got made, so just,
nice. So they were
just wanted to use it." Yeah, so I was like, I wonder if that is for the World's End.
More than likely. I mean, they doesn't seem like Edgar Wright likes to give up on ideas that
like his
he starts.
student film.
Yeah, student film that he did. The first time you saw it, did you think that Danny actually stabbed him and like he actually died because like he played it off so well?
I thought he did stab him, but then I remembered that he had placed the pocketbook, in his front pocket. Because Nick Frost gives him the pocketbook.
Yeah,
before
he
goes
says
out.
He says you're gonna need this.
Yeah, so I think at first I was like, what the fuck? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have a quick wait, like a little wait
yeah,
moment.
So I think I had that moment of like, oh shit, I can't believe he. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, because with Edgar Wright movies, anything's possible.
One thing I did like about this, they don't kill anybody, as far as like, Nick Angel doesn't kill anybody, I should say.
Let's see. Yeah, none of the main good cops die.
I don't think anybody dies.
Well, no, because the bomb blows up and they're all arrested.
Oh, the only one that does die out of all the people is the guy who gets killed by the mine at the very end. But all the other people, they all get arrested except for him. Or wait, or is he?
They could all be dead for we know. Everyone.
No, because remember they show everybody at the end getting photographed.
No, yeah, they all get processed and they're doing the paperwork, and then that's when the guy shows up with the sea mine.
Oh yeah, that's true. So technically, they could all have died.
Yeah, and all the good guys survived, and they could have all have died. We don't know. I'm like, after it blew up, I was like, oh, did the Andes make it? I just want to know, did the Andes make it? So they're all survived for sure, like, because I counted and checked, and I was like, okay, they're all there. Yeah, because after the explosion happens, after the cemetery scene, you only see Angel and Danny. They're the only two characters you see, and you hear Doris's voice, and then they do the whole punch it, supercut ending.
You know what's funny is they even use some filming techniques from Jackie Chan movies. The scene where he like jump kicks the one old lady in the face.
Oh yeah.
That's actually the way they did it. Is they did a close cut of her getting hit in the face with a shoe with the feet, and all it is just some guy with the shoe on his hand wearing pants on his arm, and just coming into the shot and hitting her in the face with the. And that's how they do it in the Jackie Chan movies.
Oh, that's
when it's
crazy.
like those close up like foot to face shots.
Well, hell, in Jackie Chan movies, you would think they would actually do it because he does crazy
I'm
stuff.
I'm sure he does. Like the ones that aren't like close ups, I'm pretty sure he does because
those are probably just in the tight close reshoots.
Yeah.
When they really want to show the impact,
like the reaction impact shots. Yeah. I mean, this movie obviously is pulling from a very large library of, action directors, action movies, action cliches. What would you say is one of your favorite action, like action movie directors?
Mike Bay, like we're on. Hi, how you doing, Mike? Michael Bay's stuff, it's okay. I mean, I don't like any of his newer stuff, but when he first started, it was obviously entertaining. I was also younger, so it appeased my eye candy side.
I mean, they don't necessarily have to be primarily action directors. It could just be somebody who's made a huge influence in the action genre, like, James Cameron.
Oh, yeah, James.
With Aliens or Terminator or,
He's another director that I like his earlier work. I can't think of anything that he's done recently. Like a lot of the directors that kind of had their first imprints on it, their first influence of it, don't seem to be doing as many great movies now. Like Steven Spielberg, I like a lot of his movies, like Minority Report. I thought that was a pretty good movie. I'm liking James Gunn's approach on some of the stuff he's been doing, like Slither. That's another comedy horror action flick.
Yeah, he came up from the Trauma, right? That's where he kind of got his start, is in the Trauma movies. For me, one of my favorites, like, I think he had like a really strong run of movies. I mean, nowadays, I haven't really cared for anything that he's done. But one of my favorites is Walter Hill. I think he's done some awesome stuff that we're seeing. I mean, we're still seeing influences from his stuff today, you know. Walter Hill did Hard Times with Charles Bronson, where he's like a street fighter, like back in, I want to say it was like the 20s or the 30s, you know, early 1900s. He did The Driver, which is a huge influence on, you know, Drive, which is also, I guess you could also say Thief was probably, Michael Mann's Thief was probably another.
Oh, Michael Mann.
Pretty, yeah, that's another one he's kind of dropped off in recent years, but his earlier stuff is kick-ass.
Yeah.
But Walter Hill also did The Warriors. Warriors! But he did Extreme Prejudice, which is a badass movie. If you have not seen that one is so good.
No, I haven't seen that one.
That one's actually shot here in El Paso, which is
crazy,
but it's a damn good movie. That's one that like, when people talk about action movies, I'm like, how come nobody knows this movie? It's really good. It's got Nick Nolte as the main character. And he's fighting Powers Booth pretty much in the movie.
Powers Booth, man. Whatever happened to Powers Booth? And
it's set in El Paso. It's crazy. And it's written by, John Milius, who wrote Apocalypse Now, Red Dawn. So you know.
Oh, nice. Not the Red Dawn remake, because that was horrible.
No, the original.
Oh, the original's so good. Oh, as far as action, like, John Woo.
Oh, John Woo.
I can't stand watching any of his movies now, but like when they first came out when I was younger, like I remember really liking Face Off, and then I think I was hanging out with Dan Ray, and we were watching Face Off, and it was just like so horrible.
Dude, I still love Face Off though. It's so, I like it because I'm aware that it's not good. But it's one of those movies, like, when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, it's just so of its time.
Yeah.
That it's hard to not like it because of that. Like, if it was made today, you'd be like, this movie is garbage. Like, it would be terrible. Another one, Hard Target. That's a John Woo film.
Yeah, Hard Target. What?
Hard Target is also a really bad movie. But it's also our so good.
Our favorite, Wilford Brimley.
Yeah. Right?
I'm surprised Wilford Brimley made it back. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Mr. Brimley. And then, of course, one of my all-time favorites is Jean-Claude Van Damme is in it, and he's in there. He's helping some chick find her daddy, as he would say. He does. Oh, it's so good. All right, so I guess that's it.
Yeah.
As far as that. All right. So, Joe, would you recommend Hot Fuzz?
No. No, I'm kidding. No, it's definitely would recommend Hot Fuzz. Much like Shaun of the Dead, it's either your popcorn flick that you could just sit down and enjoy while you're even doing internet searches or whatever, and just kind of look up and get a laugh here and there or whatever. Or you could just really, really take the time and pay attention and get just so much out of the movie. Super enjoyable.
I agree with you in that it's like Shaun of the Dead, and that it's a movie that you can either delve into and, you know, peel back the many layers of the onion cake. And who the fuck eats onion cake?
You know what tastes really good though, surprisingly? Onion and pepperoni pizza.
Really?
Yeah. Really good.
I hate onions. Anyway, though I will say this, it's not on the same level as Shaun of the Dead. I think it's it's not on that same level in that you have to pay attention to the characters and know what's going on. But I will say this, that I actually like Hot Fuzz more than I do Shaun of the Dead. So yeah, take what you will from that. But I would definitely recommend it, for sure. Sticking
into this trilogy, it's really hard for me to pick between one of the three, which one's the better.
No, I agree that I totally agree with that, and that they're both I mean, all three movies, I'm just going to ruin it right now, are really great movies. But if I had to, like if somebody was like, no, you need to pick one, I would pick Hot Fuzz. And only, I mean, just by a hair, it would be squeezing out Shaun of the Dead and World's End.
I think Shaun of the Dead probably, I could watch that one repeatedly a little bit more than I can this one. But I still enjoy this one about the same.
See, the one, for me, this one, every time I watch it, I enjoy it more and more. I don't know why. I think maybe because I went into it and I didn't like it the first time, but every single time it's just more and more I'm enjoying it. If you have any questions or comments and you want to holler at your girl.
Holla back, girl.
Us being your girl.
Yeah, we are holla back girls.
I don't even know what that means. But if you want to holler at us, you can reach us at podmaxpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at PodmaxPodcast. I'm MJ Melby.
And I'm Joe Guttyby. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week when we talk about The World's End.
Who the hell do you think you are? Me? They call me the King.
Yeah, that's your point of view on it.
That's just like your opinion, man. Big Lebowski. No? Nobody?
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's a movie I don't really like that much. But I think that's because that's
Really?
One of those movies that Friends killed it for me. And not the TV show. Friends.
I didn't see that movie until last year.
Okay. You gave some space.
And I gave it a lot of... The funny thing is, I went to the... I remember going to the theater to go see it with my parents. And I remember being in the theater and being bored. And I got up to the point where specifically remember it because he's buying milk with a check. And I remember being like, I don't get what's so funny about it. I just didn't, I was too young to quite
appreciate
grasp.
the humor.
To appreciate like the subtle humor. So I was like, I don't get this. This is dumb. It's just showing some guy buying milk. And I just wasn't able to I wasn't able to appreciate it. So I just left the movie. I went out to the arcade and just played video games the entire time. Which was cool. I mean, I got to have a good time, But, yeah, I can at least say I remember that.
Yeah,
in the theater.
I watched it again 3 years ago, and I was just like, nope, it's still ruined for me. That and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I can't. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Ruined.
So
I don't recommend those movies, but I highly recommend Hot Fuzz and, of course, Shaun of the Dead. It's like a post-credit movie where it's just, I guess they're doing it now all the time. What was the first movie to do that? Do you remember? You think the movie's over and it's really not.
First one that I can think of, the earliest, would probably be Ferris Bueller's Day Out or Day Off.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Day Out.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Damn it, or is it Day Out? I don't know.
Baby's Day Out. Joe Montana.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.